From the CyberHub bunker and studio, you're tuning in to the CyberHub Podcast. And now for your host and CISO, James Azar.
Good morning, security gang. Welcome to another episode of the CyberHub Podcast. I'm on the road outside the studio. I'm on the West Coast again. And I got to tell you, having been on the West Coast 3 out of the last 5 weeks, everyone who watches us at 6 a.m., kudos. I mean, it takes me about an hour and a half to get ready for the show, just, kind of researching the stories and so forth. So a 6 a.m. go time means I'm up and at 'em at 0400 hours. So to everyone tuning in this early on the West Coast, thank you. Good morning. Let's get the show going. Obviously, being traveling, my espresso needs don't exactly meet the show timeline. The cafe downstairs, which actually has great espresso here, does not open till 0700 hours. So there's that. So I'm just going to go ahead and enjoy a little bit of cold water this morning and give you all a coffee cup cheers. Pack chill. Let's go ahead and get the ball rolling. A lot to talk about with the city of Columbus deciding to sue a cybersecurity researcher who actually disclosed the extent of the incident, taking out a restraining order against said individual. The city of Columbus in the great state of Ohio fell to a ransomware attack on July 18th. On August 16th, they pretty much told everyone, we're giving you free credit monitoring who to all individuals who had their personal information with the city after initially saying that only one employee would receive the free service. They essentially said it was everyone. They're kind of trying to do that there, right? And cybersecurity researcher David Leroy Ross, also known as Connor Goodwolf, started telling that the impact is much, much greater than the mayor and the city is leading people on. And the fact is that 6.5 terabytes of data were allegedly a Racita ransomware gang, and they were leaked online. Well, 3.1 terabytes of information was supposedly exfiltrated from the Columbus systems. Racita said 6.5. The ransomware groups always inflate the amount of data there, and that's part of kind of psychological warfare and negotiation tactic. Say we have more data. Say we have data you don't know you had, but we have it. We found it. We're smart. We're these guys, and hopefully that'll get you to pay a ransom. So Columbus Mayor Andrew Ginther explained that the attackers had stolen corrupted or encrypted data, and so they couldn't use it. However, Ross, being a due diligent cybersecurity researcher, called bullshit and proved the fact that it included names, social security numbers, a lot of sensitive data. In fact, a lot of the information pertained to police officers from the city of Columbus and crime victims. So they were a victim again. And for that, the city filed a complaint against Ross, saying that he went into the dark web and extracted from the backup, and that there was a restraining order essentially issued, but a temporary restraining order issued by a judge against Ross. A Franklin County judge granted an ex parte motion of a temporary restraining order preventing Ross from accessing the stolen data leaked on the dark web. The order also bars him from disseminating data downloaded from the Racita site. Now, it doesn't stop from preventing or discussing the incident, but my gosh, he's holding them. Look, over the weekend, on Monday, I published an article about France and Brazil's battle with free speech, and essentially what they're doing with Telegram and X, formerly known as Twitter, is just the beginning of a battle. And this here specifically is a good researcher, a very good researcher at that, who saw the public being misled and exercised his First Amendment right to inform the public and hold the people at power accountable for it. And the people at power took that they have in their local jurisdiction, issuing a temporary restraining order from the researcher from holding them accountable to the fact that they were misleading the public or inadequately managing the situation. One or the other. Either the mayor has no clue what he's doing and he's just fed some information. He's deciding what works and what doesn't. He's deciding what to update and what he should or shouldn't update. And either he was intentionally misleading or intentional or misintentionally just trying to downplay the whole event. Either way, This is shameful. It's shameful, and the entire cybersecurity community, myself as a CISO, should be supporting the cybersecurity researcher here. Absolutely why we have issues as cybersecurity practitioners. End of rant. That's the story I wanted to lead off with today because it is absolutely horrifying. With the people we elect to represent us. You don't represent yourself. You don't represent special interests. You represent the people. We are a constitutional republic in these United States. It's we the people, and apparently the mayor of the city of Columbus and the Franklin County judge have both forgotten that they are there to serve the people, not do this to not infringe on people's individual rights for freedom of speech and being able to obviously get their hands on information. Halliburton is now confirming from their end that there was data stolen in the cyber attack they experienced on August 21st. They've now informed the SEC that they've exfiltrated information from the company systems. And again, this is the SEC rule here, right? So we don't have a lot of details. So let me start off with this. We don't have a lot of details on Halliburton or what data was extracted. But the reason we see this is because the SEC made a rule. And the rule said that you've got to report material breaches within 4 days. What's a material breach? Well, it's something that you would consider to be material that could impact your stock price, shareholder value, or company performance, right? So initially, in the first 72 to 96 hours of a data breach, of an incident, you don't know if you have a breach or not. You don't know the extent of the damage. But then at the same time, you have to report something, especially if you're a publicly traded company and you take your systems offline. Customers start to talk, rumors start to spread, so you have to address it right off the bat. So you issue a very vague, we're going through a cyber incident, we're investigating, we'll update you as we go along. And then as they go along with different steps of the investigation, more information becomes readily available. And then as it becomes more readily available, it starts to drop. And here now we know that based on the current state of the investigation at Halliburton, they know that data was exfiltrated, whether that be through communication with the threat actor at a leak site or whether that be through the forensics works they are doing themselves. One of those two reasons is there. We now know that Halliburton confirmed to the SEC data was leaked. So there's that. McLaren Healthcare, which is now experienced a cybersecurity breach several weeks ago, is now back and fully operational, according to the Michigan-based operator. The restoration was completed ahead of schedule. They estimated the disruptions would last all through August into September. They were obviously able to get those done. So all the McLaren hospitals, cancer centers, and clinics now have access to electronic health records. It could take several weeks to input patient data that was collected manually during the IT outage. Outside of that, there's that, but that shows you the serious consequences of these specific data breaches on healthcare facilities and kind of the long-term impact. Now there's a big data entry job there as well. Yesterday, we talked about Wazir X and kind of the restructuring they have to go to after the data breach there. Now the FTC is also reporting a massive increase in losses to Bitcoin ATM scams, nearly 10 times the amount from 2020, now reaching $110 million just last year alone. Bitcoin ATMs are typically located in convenience stores, gas stations, and other busy areas. They don't dispense cash like a traditional ATM. They allow buy and sell crypto, and scammers use those to trick victims into depositing cash while impersonating either law enforcement or government officials. Here's the thing. Government or law enforcement will never ask you to pay in Bitcoin. Ever. I know some government facilities that won't even take credit cards. They'll only take debit cards, ACH, money orders, or cash. So some of the people who fall victims to it are the people most vulnerable in our population, people over the age of 60. They're 3 times as likely to do it, and the average loss in that age group is around $10,000. So these criminals are absolute scum. As we can obviously tell, targeting the most innocent. Do your part. Please educate your elderly people over the age of 60 around you, people in their 40s, whoever. Just educate them, let them know of these threats. Intel is sharing classification after a researcher claimed to have made significant progress in hacking the chip's extension data protection technology. The Russian cybersecurity firm Positive Technologies issued a report last week that's saying they were managed to extract cryptographic keys pertaining to Intel SGX. And SGX itself is designed to protect code and data against software and hardware attacks by storing it in a trusted execution environment called an enclave, which is separated in an encrypted region of the semiconductor. Now, Intel put a lot of work into that, and apparently the researcher here was able to go in and actually get their hands on the cryptographic keys. So long story short, Intel kind of says, dude, you just took our chip, you didn't use it as it would be deployed. The use cases, you just took our chip and you went at it. And that's not really how it works. It's part of an OS. There's different aspects to the SGX root provisioning key, and so forth. And so you're not really hacking our keys. You're actually misleading. And then they provide their own technical detail, and you can find that in the show notes. Go check that out there. Like I said, if you haven't subscribed to our Substack, go check it out. Again, I did a story on the folks Brazil and France's approach to free speech, and obviously with Pavel Durov, there's something really, really important. Go check it out, jamesazar.substack.com. Let's get to some vulnerabilities that are being patched. Google yesterday announced a fresh set of Android security updates that address 35 different vulnerabilities, including a local privilege escalation bug that's being exploited in attacks. This CVE 2024-328-906 is a high severity issue that affects Android's framework component. It's a lead to protection bypass, allowing a local attacker to elevate privileges. The bug was initially disclosed in June. Google warned it had been exploited as a zero-day to target Pixel devices, and they've now issued the patch. Their end also announced patches for multiple vulnerabilities in their network devices, including a critical severity flaw that affects multiple access points and security router models. CVE 2024-7261 has a CVSS score of 9.8. The critical bug is described as an OS command injection issue that could be exploited by a remote unauthenticated attackers via crafted cookies. The networking device manufacturer has released security updates to address the bug in all 28 processes. And again, you can see more notes on that in the show notes. VMware also issued a patch for their Fusion hypervisor, addressing a high severity vulnerability that exposes it to code execution exploits. CVE 2024-38811 has a CVSS score of 8.8, and then it's an insecure environment variable, according to VMware. Fusion contains a code execution vulnerability to the usage of an insecure environment variable. They've evaluated the severity and marked it as important severity range. The defect could be exploited to execute code in the context of Fusion, which could potentially lead to a complete system compromise. So you want to make sure you get those environments all taken care of. China taking advantage of the heightened presidential election only a few days from when the first states start to do early voting, which seems unbelievable. So a Chinese influence campaign is ramping up. They're creating fake personas across social media platforms to spread divisive messages about the state of the country. They do that with TikTok, but they're also using accounts on X, Facebook, Instagram, and other platforms as well. In this specific case, 15 accounts on X had and another on TikTok do not exhibit support for one candidate versus another, but instead just express frustration with both former President Donald Trump and current President Joe Biden, and more recently, the Democratic Party nominee and current Vice President Kamala Harris. They also cast doubt on the electoral process. They're spreading a divisive narrative around gun control, homelessness, the Israel-Hamas conflict, and racial inequality. Again, they're fueling that stuff online. People fall for it. All it takes is one headline, a bunch of shares. The message is there. And then when the story goes away, it becomes a conspiracy, which is very, very common if you start digging through it. Established Spamify operative the researchers have been tracking since 2020. It's a pro-China media outlet called Deep Red, rebranded with a fake U.S. persona back in late of 2023. The X account changed his name to Common Fireman with the U.S. flag banner. Again, they seem patriotic. They seem like they love the country. They don't. They're Chinese doing what Chinese do. And finally, the DPA levied a fine of 30.5 million euros, approximately $33.7 million, on Clearview AI that offers facial recognition services. They've also issued a warning to organizations in the Netherlands prohibiting the use of Clearview AI. The company is found to have a database of billions of facial photos, including those of Dutch citizens, without their knowledge or consent. Clearview provide facial recognition services to intelligence and investigative agencies. They've amassed a database of more than 30 billion photos scraped from the internet. Then they're converted into unique biometric codes, allowing customers to identify individuals based on camera footage. The Dutch DPA launched a investigation into this, finding a violation of privacy, not having consent of the people. The European Data Protection Board listed the following violation for the basis of the fine: unlawful data processing, biometric data violation, inadequate disclosure, access request ignored, and lack of EU representation. All in all, Clearview AI, this is a major setback for them, and we'll see how that impacts business. That's it for our show this morning. We'll be back tomorrow, 9 a.m. Eastern, here live, 6 a.m. Pacific, 9 a.m. Eastern, live with all the latest, greatest. Until then, thank you so much for tuning in. Have a great day, and most importantly, stay cyber safe.
We love feedback, so make sure to connect with us on social media and subscribe to our podcast on your favorite podcast listening platform.